They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Alright guys, in this video, I am going to try to keep the intro very short. I just have two things to remind y'all. One, I am currently looking for contributors on the channel. If you've ever wanted to get involved with the Fantasy Flock Network, now is your chance. If you want to edit videos, if you want to come on and possibly talk during some videos, possibly do some research, whatever you are interested in, if you have an idea on what you would like to do to contribute, this quote-unquote off-season, at least for fantasy football, is going to be the time where I am trying to get a system set up where we can work stuff out with multiple people to improve the overall quality of the fantasy basketball channel, the dynasty fantasy football channel, and the main fantasy channel, as well as I'm going to be trying to open up a fantasy baseball one to go along with those. And I know a lot about basketball, I know a lot about football, but I'm not going to try to fool anyone in acting like I know anything about baseball, even though I am representing my man Albert Pujols and his original jersey for the St. Louis Cardinals. And if you want to get involved with the channel, it's very simple. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, Twitter, I don't care where, or email me directly at fantasyflocknetwork@gmail.com. I'll include all of that information at the beginning of the video on the screen. So just rewind, figure out where it is, and then you can shoot me that DM. But anyway, let's get into this. And our first player that we're going to talk about that is rising extremely fast over the past few games is going to be Collin Sexton. Okay, so obviously we all remember Collin Sexton's game against the Brooklyn Nets, where we finally got the debut of Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant playing all together. And Collin Sexton ruined their homecoming. I mean, he ruined the Big Three's debut because Collin Sexton went off during overtime to win that game single-handedly for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And if we look at what he's been averaging over about the past 5 games, I mean, it looks like this 22-year-old is taking his game and he's stepping it up to the next level where he is averaging close to 25 points a game. We know that Collin Sexton is going to give you some 3-point production at the same time and 4 rebounds, 5 assists. So yes, these aren't numbers like Luka, these aren't numbers like LeBron James, but in fantasy basketball, you did not invest into Collin Sexton expecting him to have 9 rebounds, 8 assists, and 25 points a game. No, I mean, you picked him up just because, you know what? Maybe this guy has something to do in his age 22 season. He just turned 22. He's still extremely, extremely young. And you just picked him up for the upside, which he's really been coming through with. And I'm excited to see where his game continues to progress. Because right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are fun to watch. And it seemed like we could never say that for a franchise that did not have LeBron James on it. But right now, Collin Sexton is taking that next leap, and I'm very excited to see where this progresses over the next month. All right, so now our next player that we are going to talk about was our number 2 draft day target for the first round in the fantasy offseason, and this is going to be Luka. Okay, so guys, I know Luka started off extremely cold. I know that, yes, I was telling y'all to buy low on Luka, but really, that did not mean anything just because nobody is selling Luka with a player that is currently averaging 27 points a game, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. I mean, he is truly in the MVP running, and this is kind of crazy considering the fact that his shots aren't going in. I mean, if you look at Luka from beyond the arc, he is still under 30%, and I understand that Luka has a much worse shot selection chart than other 3-point specialists like a Steph Curry or just really anybody that's going to play a little bit more off ball. Luka kind of has to take those step back threes just so he has an easy time attacking the basket and his defender has to kind of step up on him. And really that's the only reason he's doing it. Obviously it's not a good shot, but even with those shots not necessarily being the best selection, if you look at what Luka was able to do earlier on in his NBA career, I think we can naturally assume that more of those 3-pointers are going to start going in. And if that's the case, I mean, Luka can take a step up into something that we have yet to see from him before in his entire NBA career. I mean, if he takes that 28% from three and just say raises it 5% up to 33%, I mean, that is going to make a drastic difference. And Luka, while the efficiency numbers are bad right now, if you just look at what he's been doing the past month, I mean, there are some games where he's coming away with 16, 17 assists, 16, 17 rebounds. It's disgusting, especially if you have to go up against Luka in any of those matchups. But yeah, not too much to talk about here just because he's kind of one of those assets where you start him every single week he's active and nobody is really selling him, so it's going to be hard to buy. But a player that is definitely needing some discussion centered around him is going to be Michael Porter Jr. We just talked about him in our video yesterday where I was saying, you know what? I don't know what we are going to be expecting from Michael Porter Jr. as yes, this is an extremely young player with all the upside in the world, but at the same time, we have yet to see him really develop on the defensive end, and we know that he is a liability off the court just with what he has said, and that's why he fell in the NBA draft a few seasons ago. But his last game going for 30 points, kind of single-handedly winning the Denver Nuggets in that game while Nikola Jokic wasn't able to get much going. And at the same time, I mean, he's grabbing boards, 8 rebounds. He's like 6'8", Michael Porter Jr. And we know that he is a deep ball specialist. He had 6 threes in that game. So while Michael Porter Jr. may be one of the most polarizing players in the NBA, if not the most polarizing player in the NBA, it really looks like, I mean, he is everything he was sold to be. Michael Porter Jr. has all the upside in the world. I don't think anybody would be too surprised if he turns into an all-NBA player season after season after season. He just kind of has to make sure he is continuing to develop his craft. I mean, he is younger than I am, which is crazy to think about. But Michael Porter Jr., this is probably the player I am most excited about seeing over the next few months, just with how he is able to develop his game. You have to question as well, I mean, what are the Denver Nuggets' plans with Michael Porter Jr.? Is this a player that they could be looking to ship off? And if that's the case, I know I've been saying to sell players like Bradley Beal, who may be traded off a Washington Wizards team, and his usage may go down. But if a team is trading for Michael Porter Jr. to be their centerpiece for the next 5 years, I think that is a player that we may actually want to buy. Because if he is leaving a rotation that has Nikola Jokic, that has Jamal Murray, I mean, I think he could see the ball in his hands a little bit more. And based on how he's playing, really having no turnovers at all, and we know that he is going to score at a very efficient rate, Michael Porter Jr. is just looking like a very tantalizing basketball player. All right. But anyway, let's go to a player that we know is already in his prime. We know that Damian Lillard can take over any NBA game anytime he decides to. And here, he's going to have to for the long duration that CJ McCollum is going to be out. Obviously, this is a team that has suffered a multitude of injuries. And in Damian Lillard's last 6 games, we've seen him have 33 points a game, almost 5 rebounds. We know Damian Lillard is going to be putting up a ridiculous amount of threes, so we don't even have to really discuss that. But also 8 assists. And this is what we should come to expect with Damian Lillard without CJ McCollum, with this team not having too much depth after those injuries. I mean, his usage rate is going to be near the very top of the NBA, if not at the very top. And yeah, I think that if you can go out there and trade for Damian Lillard, if someone thinks, you know what, I mean, he's been on a tear as of late, might as well sell him and make an instant profit. If you could go and attack an owner with that thought process, I think you could come away a very happy man. All right, so now let's go to a player that I have been obsessing with as of late. This is going to be Christian Wood. Okay, so if we break down what Christian Wood has done since the James Harden trade, I mean, he has had not a single game under 20 points. And during that stretch, he's averaging 25 points. And not only is he giving you the points, but he's also doing so with being extremely efficient on the court. And he is grabbing 13 boards. He's averaging about 3 three-pointers a game. And we know that is a massive difference at the big man position. And this is because he is just seeing a ridiculous amount of minutes in this rotation. I mean, his lowest game with minutes was actually 31 since the James Harden trade. Christian Wood, he's here to stay. I mean, he is a fantastic asset, and he is going to be winning some people their fantasy championships. All right, so now our last player that we're going to talk about is someone that I am going to be completely honest. I was too low on him this last offseason, and this is going to be Shay GilyardAlexander, where he is averaging 25 points, and he has those 3 balls going in for his last 5 games on the court. And we know what is great about Shay is he's giving you rebounds and assists at the same time, where he has 5.5 rebounds and 7.5 assists over the last 5. And he's been shooting incredible from the field if you look at his efficiency marks. So with Shay, obviously one of the youngest players in the NBA making an impact for his team. And he has a ridiculous usage rate just because on Oklahoma, there are not too many other guys to go with. So Shay is someone, I mean, all the stars lined up for him to have that next step taken. I don't know why I did not bite hard enough, because I really wish I had more of him this current moment. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's it. I hope I'll see y'all with the next video.